Hi, this is Danai, and today's video is going to be all about how to treat your fingers as a professional pianist. I get this question so often: how do you play so much? How do you give so many concerts? How do you play for such a long time without your fingers or hands or arms aching? And my reply is always, of course, if you play right, they're not supposed to ache. There's not supposed to be any pain. But it actually is a very legitimate question, because there are a lot of things that can happen if you put so much strain on your fingers. And I think it is an important topic to talk about, because if you get injured, that really is a very big problem for you as a performing pianist. So obviously the number one thing is that you have to practice properly, and that involves relaxing your fingers, your arms, your elbow when you practice, not getting into a weird position, and really just making sure that you are not getting into any cramps and that you're not hurting yourself while practicing. This is the number one cause of injuries and any problems that might arise in your fingers, hands, or arms, is practicing in the wrong way. So this obviously is the most important thing, and in almost every tutorial that I post, I mention that, and I try to always remind you, you have to relax. If you do something intense, always relax in between. I like to put my wrist up, because that is kind of the movement that ensures that my entire arm is relaxed, that my elbow is relaxed, shoulders down, try not to get into this type of a position, and fingers relaxed. I always try to remind you of that, because I think this is such a central thing. And my teachers also always reminded me, take breaks between practicing very intense passages, divide them into sections, and actually take breaks between those sections. And by breaks, I mean take like 5-second breaks. Don't go da 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 da, but go da 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 da, relax, da 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 da, relax, so that your fingers get used to what it feels like to play something fast but in a relaxed way. So this is kind of the precondition for everything. But besides that, of course, there are a couple of things that you can do outside of the piano that will help you maintain a healthy hand, a healthy arm, relaxed fingers, and that will help ensure that nothing happens to you, even when straining them so much and expecting them to do so much. Because I also always like to say that being a pianist is something that you can compare to being a marathon runner, only for this muscle area, because we are warming up, we are playing for many hours at a time. We are really like a high performance athlete, and we have to take care of our fingers like a runner would take care of his legs. And this already brings me to the first thing that I find vital for any pianist, and that is stretching. Stretching your fingers and your hands and arms is so important and so helpful. I stretch every time before I practice, I stretch during practice, and I stretch after practice. Now, there are different types of stretches. I do a finger stretch actually at the piano that I already made a video about, which I will link in the description box down below. I basically just play one note with the thumb or with the fifth finger in the left hand, and then the furthest away note that I can with the fifth finger or thumb, depending on the hand, and that stretches my fingers here. I also like to do this type of a stretch like this. So these are some finger stretches, but before I play the piano, I actually stretch my underarm by doing this with both hands, holding it for maybe 10 seconds, and then doing like this, which stretches this area, and then also turning it around, so doing this. Very simple stuff, but so helpful. Another thing that I like to do is I place my hand on the wall, and then I try to turn around with my upper body, and this stretches this area, kind of the shoulder a bit. Same with this one, I place it and then I try to turn away with my body, so I stretch this area. It kind of opens up this area, because you're very much like this when playing a lot. And I do the same with placing my entire underarm on the wall. like this, and then again, it's a similar stretch like the one I said before, but it is a little more intense. So these are the basic hand, finger, and arm stretches that I do. In addition to that, I am a big fan of yoga and yoga stretches, simply because it improves your general body posture. And when playing the piano, we like to forget about our general body posture and just focus on arms and maybe also shoulders. But the truth is that a good body posture is so helpful for you as a pianist as well. And I actually do yoga every day. I do it every morning. I've also posted a video about my yoga routine as a pianist, which I can also link in the description box so you can check it out. I think that it is very helpful. I know that yoga is not for everybody and maybe you don't like it, but of course there are other stretches that you can do. The most important thing is that you somehow activate your body in a way that is going to improve your posture, because playing the piano just by itself is not the best thing for your posture. So I find that this is very helpful, and that also is something that helps my fingers, because when my entire body is relaxed and stretched and ready for it, then I feel like I can definitely play in a relaxed way. Now I would like to talk a little bit about hand and finger exercises that pianists do away from the piano. There are many different things. I know pianists, for example, that have little balls in their hands and that rotate those two balls by doing this type of a movement with both hands, and they feel like this improves their agility. I know pianists that have a Rubik's Cube that they play with because they feel like this keeps their fingers warm, or that have other fidget toys that they fidget with because somehow they want their fingers to always keep moving so that they don't get cold. There are also certain gadgets that are actually made for this. I had one when I was younger where you basically held it here in the palm of your hand, and then there were little things that you could press down with your fingers. It was kind of like weight training for fingers. I must say that personally, I don't use any of those. I feel like when I have stretched fingers and then play the piano, I feel totally fine. But I think that it can definitely be helpful, and for people that use those, it obviously does help them. As I said, I know many people that do, so I just wanted to mention it. If you're looking for something to improve your finger agility and strength away from the piano, maybe look into one of those options and just do that while you're in the bus or on the train or at work. This can definitely be an option. Another thing that I've heard people do is digging in sand or digging in the garden. This can also, of course, improve your fingers, but also keep in mind, don't do too much of that, because otherwise it's going to be like exercising too much. Like kind of if you're in the fitness studio and do too many repetitions or do it with weights that are too heavy for you, again, you could hurt yourself. So if you're doing these exercises away from the piano, definitely do not overdo it. Playing the piano itself is already very good for your fingers. Just do the other ones additionally. Definitely, if you feel any sort of pain or any sort of cramp, stop immediately, because this is not right. Two little facts that I would also like to mention, although they are not that important, but I think that when talking about how to look after your fingers away from the piano, I should mention them. One is that I am someone that uses a lot of hand cream, especially in the winter when it gets very dry and cold outside, because if you have skin that keeps opening up, as a pianist, you usually don't have your hand like this, but like this. And if your skin gets very dry, I have that sometimes, then it's going to crack open all the time and it's going to be so painful. So I use hand cream a lot, so that I can ensure that even when the temperature is very cold and my hands would usually get dry, they don't, and I can still play with no problems there. And the second thing is the nails. As a pianist, obviously you cannot have long nails, so I would just mention that obviously they should be short at all times. Not incredibly short, because that can be painful. I had a phase where I cut them very, very short and that was not comfortable, but just short so that when you play a key, they obviously don't touch it. So short enough that when you do this, there is only skin touching the key. And before a concert, or usually one day before, I clip my nails, and I always make sure that they don't get too long so that I don't play and then they split open, because that's also painful. So definitely cut your nails very, very regularly, and I would also suggest using hand cream. Now, another question that I get very often is what to avoid as a pianist in order to protect your fingers. I feel that this is kind of a tricky question, because generally I am a fan of just enjoy your life, don't be afraid of anything. I grew up doing basically more or less almost everything just completely normally, and not being afraid of, you know, breaking my finger, breaking my hand. I know some young kids that play the piano that literally don't do anything because their parents are so afraid that something might happen to their fingers. I think this is a bit excessive. However, there are some things that I avoided. For example, I avoided playing basketball and volleyball simply because you are catching that ball with your hands, and this really is something where, you know, the ball can touch your finger like this and then you won't be able to play for a couple of days, or if you break something, of course, it's even more dangerous. So maybe try to avoid that. I'm also not sure whether, for example, skateboarding or, you know, some sports where you fall on your wrists a lot are the best idea. So of course, be sensible and try to avoid injury. Don't put yourself in a position where an injury to your finger, hand, or wrist is very likely. And also maybe avoid super heavy lifting. Super heavy lifting is never good for your wrist or for anything piano related. But aside from that, I also know great pianists that do play basketball. I also know great pianists that do skateboard. So having said that, of course, you know yourself best. And if you know you are a safe basketball player, then by all means play basketball. Just enjoy your life and don't try to restrict yourself too much. I think that when you're afraid that something might happen, that's probably when it will happen. So I try to really just do whatever I like and just enjoy it. One thing that I would like to mention is something that I got into in the past year to protect my wrist, because as some of you might know, I have two little kids that, especially in the past years, I had to carry around a lot, and that definitely took a toll on my wrist. And it wasn't anything piano related, but I felt that from this position of carrying the babies all the time, I had put some strain on my wrist. And I got this bandage, which is super simple. It looks like this, and you basically just put it around your wrist like this and close it with this extra little thing. And then it's just on your wrist, and it doesn't do anything but give you a little bit of extra stability. And for me, it just helped me because, of course, I could not stop carrying my children. So of course I could carry them, but when I did, I was wearing this bandage and it just kind of distributed the weight in a better way, and I didn't have any problems anymore after that. So I thought I would mention this because this is something that I actually use myself and that helped me in my situation. I knew it was nothing dangerous, but also I knew that it would be helpful, because if I carry my children a lot plus play a lot of piano, that could have maybe resulted in something dangerous somewhere along the line. So I did this and it was super helpful. So if you are in the position where you have to carry a lot, or for any reason put a lot of strain on your wrist, I can definitely recommend this super simple thing. Not expensive. I just got it at a pharmacy and it really helped me. So these were my top tips of how to look after your hands, fingers, wrists, arms as a pianist. What I personally do. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you also do similar things, or maybe if you have some different methods to make sure that your fingers are strong but not injured in any type of way. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. That would help me a lot. And I will see you again in the next video. Bye!